Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Jo Wheatley, and my friend and co-host Zoe Hawkins.
Hi, everybody. We're here today to talk about co coaching. And you might be looking at the title thinking, well, what even is co coaching? And ultimately, co coaching is about where you find another coach to partner with to work on different sorts of projects. And the reason why we're bringing this is obviously Jo and I have a relationship and have been working together for many years. And we often get asked, well, how did you two find each other? And how does it work with you? And what's it like working with somebody else? Or we might have people reflect on the fact that it can be lonely working as an independent coach. And it really doesn't have to be that way. So we thought this is a topic to bring to the podcast and explore and share with you some insights about co coaching. So, where should we begin, Jo?
Where should we begin? I love being around other coaches, and I think most coaches love being around other coaches because it's stimulating, challenging. There's a shared understanding, probably a shared language, because let's face it, we all use very coachy terms and we lose sight of the fact that we do. But I think about co-coaching as being in a group and a team scenario. So that's where we've worked, we've done several pieces of work together in that context. And the reason that we chose to work together in those scenarios is because it's a one-to-many situation. So we would look at how many people are in the group or the team that we're being asked to work with, and what's going to work in terms of dynamics. And obviously we take lots of different things into account. So how aligned are the group? What is it that they're wanting to work on over what period of time? Many, many different things. Where working with another coach can be so important and useful is firstly around ideas. So co-creating, the content, the structure, um, that you're going to suggest to the organization or the group if you're designing a program yourselves. And that's another situation where this works. So you've got somebody to prepare with, somebody to bounce ideas off. And whereas sometimes if you were doing that on your own, your internal narrative, you'll have an idea and your internal narrative will be like, no, that won't work, that won't be good, oh, I can't, all of that. Having somebody else that you can, verbalize those ideas to. If you've got another coach that says, that's a great idea, and we could do this, and you're like, yeah, that could be great. And so your energy around that work can be elevated, and it's just such a beautiful space.
Mm. In the early days of my career, I think it helped me to be much bolder,
Mm.
having somebody, typically you, by my side, when we're doing those different events and facilitation. And I think the reason is because you have another pair of eyes on what's happening in the room. So psychodynamics are complex when it comes to working in groups and teams. And when you're thinking about, right, what's the next activity that we're going to be doing? Or, how do I challenge the team on this? Or, it could be anything. You're holding both the agenda, the timings, the pacing, the psychodynamics, having somebody there that's able to sort of in the breaks or where they're engaged in a discussion or activity, just come to the corner. And we would often have like our few seconds, like, how's everything going? Or I think it needs a bit more of this, or I think it needs a bit more of that. It's so much easier. So therefore, I feel more confident. I feel more supported in my role as a coach to be able to be bolder and challenge more. So, as you said there, like it's about elevation. I do think that working with a co-coach, certainly has been my experience, helps me to elevate what I bring into the space. It's sort of amplified because there's another person there. So there's that benefit. And I think it's fun. It's a lot more fun when you have somebody you by your side and on that ride with you.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about elevating, and if I bring the other part of it, which is when your mind goes blank, and you're in front of that audience, and it could go blank for any number of reasons, you've got somebody to be able to draw on. So yes, of course you can offer things back to your audience, but you've also got that other person. I think in many ways it enables you to be more real. You can actually say, my mind's just gone blank. Zoe, can you like pick this up? Like you can be real and you can be authentic in that space with them. And also what we find is that relationship between the two coaches that are facilitating that experience, you're modeling how to be in that space together. And it really influences the group. So having patience with each other, having understanding of each other, whether you're bringing in, some lightness or some humor, you're modeling those things of how to be. And there will also be looking at, I think, at like the congruency, like it is the participants' experience of you as an individual the same as that. And also they're getting more. So they're not only getting one person's skills, expertise, and experience, they're getting two. And what we can demonstrate in that mutual respect of each other is, you and I are very similar, but we're obviously also two different human beings that have, different perspectives and ways of being that are complementary and also subtly different. And, other people in that space often need that. They need to see that there's more than one way. And I think
Mm.
that's really, really important for that flexibility element.
Yeah, and the relationship between you and your co-coach is important. There's been plenty of times where Joe and I have been in a space exactly as you've described there. Someone will, I don't know, ask a question and you'll give an answer. And I might not agree with your answer, but I'm not going to shoot you down and say, no, it's this. I had a different perspective, which is the ability to honor what you have shared whilst adding in my perspective on things. Again, role modeling that there's no one single truth and things like that. So who you choose as your co-coach and how you are together is a really important piece of the work. And we often get asked, don't we, well, how do you find somebody? You two have a really unique relationship. How do you find somebody like that? Our relationship is where it is, not through accident. It's through making sure that our values are aligned, making sure that we do our inner work when we discover something that is in the way or an obstacle or a barrier to the relationship that we do together. It's about having alignment in the way that we see the world, the way that we see the work, the goals and objectives of what we're trying to achieve together, and having a deep respect for each other's perspective and opinion. So if you're in a co-coaching relationship, you got to test out your dynamic, not in the live environment. You don't want to get into a live environment and find that you're both trying to lead, or you're both trying to be in charge, or you're both trying to like control the group, whatever might or may not come out. So how you sort of spend time together in the lead up, it's about being in each other's worlds when things are going really well and when things are going less well, when things are more tense, when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed. Because if you can thrive from a place when you're less resourced, likelihood is your relationship is going to be steady when you're in a place where you're organized, prepared, and grounded for the work ahead.
And actually, one of the best bits of working with another coach in like a group or a team engagement is having somebody to debrief with. And so, it's a lot of different energies to hold for a day, and being able to share the responsibility and the load of that with somebody else can be really helpful, as well as obviously when the caretaker or the location if you're working in are like, you know, yeah, let's say they keep coming in and interrupting with stuff, and actually you just need one of you to go out and just say, actually, can you hold on that until this time? And the group don't need to be aware of that, but you can pick that up. But the debrief is when those energies have gone and you're in that space together, it can help you to decompress. It can help you to let the day go. So anything that has come up that you've been holding, thinking like, or, when we deviated from that bit earlier because this appeared to come out as a need in the group, do you think that that was useful? Because actually then this happened, and not necessarily needing to arrive at a right or a wrong. And sometimes that's what actually happens, is that one of you might feel like, was that should we have done that or shouldn't we have done it? And the other person can help to bring you out of the shoulds
Mhm.
and back into well, I think it was helpful in this way. I think that this did also happen, like, as an offshoot of that. But let's think about what we're going to do with them when we're next together. Or if there's a thing like, shall we email the group afterwards with anything? If you haven't agreed it, but that thought comes into your head, you've got somebody to talk that over with. You've got somebody to be able to kind of go for a walk with, or somebody that says, look, let's get out of this space and do a debrief, shall we? And you're like, oh, yeah, it'd be really good to get out of this space. So it enables you to leave the work where it belongs,
Mm.
which is in that space. And if you don't have somebody to do that with, it's a lot harder, I think, to be able to do that.
Yeah. I think as well as like the debriefing together, it's getting feedback, you know? So let's say, for example, you're coaching and you have a plan and you go into the space and you find that actually you're tweaking the plan a lot. One of you may be really comfortable with that, one of you may be less comfortable with that. So you get to explore together like what was needed and what wasn't needed and sharing, you know, feedback. Like, you know, my observation is I'm wondering if you're feeling uncertain or anxious about how it's going, and that's why you're changing the plan. And it just gives you the ability to be like, oh, I think some of that is true, but no, I also think that the team need that. You know, you get to have a partner witnessing your coaching, which is really unique because when you're doing one-to-one coaching, it's you and it's your client. If you ask your client for feedback, they're likely going to tell you it's amazing. They aren't going to give you the nuanced feedback unless you've specifically asked for it. So having a co-coach is great. And I think, you know, when you do work together, you get to know each other more and more. That co-coach tends to become more than just someone who you do shared facilitation or shared group and team coaching with. They tend to become somebody who you'll call after a tricky coaching session to say, right, you know, I've got this client, you know, this is roughly what we're working on. This is some of the stuff that came up today. Like, you know me, like what's your perspective? And relationships, you know, grow into all sorts of different places, don't they? Like here we are in business together many years later, but that's not how our relationship began. We actually began more as peers and colleagues supporting each other in our careers. So, you know, it's meeting somebody who you connect with and you have these shared values and perspectives with is such an important part, I think, of growing your career as a coach, building out your network of other coaches, not through concern for competition, but in the spirit of collaboration and relationship. It, you know, it's been one of the most joyful things about working as a coach.
Yeah, and I mean, we met it through an educational experience. So we met when we were doing our masters. So whilst we didn't meet on our coaching qualification, we know that lots of partnerships um, and like co-coaching scenarios actually are birthed out of people meeting on our coaching qualifications or our CPD programs. And that is because the fact that people are there, they already know they have a shared interest. They already know that they have things in common, and it's much easier to build a relationship from that, particularly if it's related to what you're going to be doing together. And a business benefit of having a co-coach relationship with somebody else is that you're drawing from two audiences. So when I think about all the different things that we've done with groups, teams, and in our business, overall it's about 50-50 in terms of like people that you used to work with or knew of you in your previous career or relationships you formed, and likewise for me, it always just has seemed to end up like equal. So we have benefited over the years from each other's audiences, relationships, networks. And if somebody was approaching you, so to do a piece of work and it was a piece of work that required two people, they trust your judgment of who you suggest to bring in because of the relationship they have with you, and vice versa, you know, the same with me. And people, and of course people get that sense from us, and we have the podcast where people can hear you and I together and how we are together. So, you know, there are other lenses on how we are, but from a business perspective it's great. And you don't have to only work with one other person. You alluded to that earlier, you know, Zoe, about you can work with, you may have relationships with a few different people that you might work together with from time to time. And that might be, it might be from a business perspective and an income perspective, but it might also be because it's part of what helps to sustain you as a coach. Because doing that work um, touches and fills a part of you that doesn't get filled through other aspects of your coaching role. And lots of coaches actually enjoy having variety as much as they love coaching clients in a one-to-one. They really enjoy, like you do in most careers where you have that variety, and having someone to celebrate with is, you know, somebody that gets it, that knows what
Mm.
the experiences has been, you know, the bits that were easy, the bits that were more challenging, and actually like the results of it. And is there energy to continue doing that together? And it's so having somebody to kind of mark a milestone with in whatever way that is kind of part of That's part of the experiences of life, really. I think the joyful things is being able to share it with others.
Mm. Yeah, the people who I've done other work with, I've often met through CPD programs. So one particular coach met on a CPD program, another was as a colleague from from when I was employed. And I really love it when I'm approached to, I've got this piece of work, I'm looking for somebody to do it with me. And most often the reason why I do those things is for joy. It's not actually for the money. We have this business. I don't need to be going elsewhere to do things. But, it's about nurturing those relationships. It's about knowing that actually, you know what, if I go and engage on this contract with another coach, when there comes a time where I'm overcommitted, I've learned about another relationship. I've learned about somebody else's ways of working. Great, I will be able to draw them in. It's coaching industry. I sort of see is a really big spider's web, like lots of threads out there in the world, all connected in different ways. And, there are times when you need to lean on it, and there are times when you're supporting it. And I think, if you're somebody who loves that, being independent whilst also being a part of something, I think the coaching industry is a really natural place to be because you can do things independently and you can do things together. And it's fluid, nothing is fixed. You get to create your career by design, really, in terms of what you want to spend your time doing. If you want to find out more about how to work as a group and team coach, perhaps as a coach on your own or as a co-coach, we do have our Foundations of Group and Team Coaching program where we talk about co-coaching and we help people to discover more about what it's like and how to actually find someone, the important things about the relationship. You can actually get a free sample of that course by doing our introductory module. That's available for you at igcompany.co.uk/GTC now. So you can hop in and have a peek behind the scenes in a try before you buy experience, or you can head over to our website and just find out more about that program at igcompany.co.uk/group.